Hello out there and welcome to Public Conscience. You are onto the anti-corruption program produced by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, PRIMOG. PRIMOG is a civil society organization working to promote good governance, participation, and accountability in Nigeria. I am Chidozie Ogbonnaya and I'm with my colleague, Adaobi Obiabomo.
A warm welcome to the program wherever you are listening to us from.
On Public Conscience, we seek to evolve a corruption-free society through the amplification of investigative corruption stories by our partner media organizations and by alerting citizens and the government to their democratic actions against it. We equally promote good integrity by amplifying rare cases of the display of honesty by public and private individuals in the course of their normal activities. We appreciate the MacArthur Foundation for supporting the production of this program.
In today's program, our focus is on the issues that shaped the conduct of governorship and state houses of assembly elections held in 28 states of the country. The enthusiasm of several voters to exercise their franchise turned sour as violent attacks, ballot ball snatching, vote buying, and more contaminated the March 18th elections across the country.
According to reports published by the International Center for Investigative Reporting, ICIR, different observer groups had reported pockets of violence across many states, which led to disruption of electoral materials and apathy. Also, there was an increase in vote buying. The report emphasized that in some places, party agents bribed voters using cash, wrappers, food items, and alcoholic drinks.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, promised to address the irregularities in the governorship and state assembly elections across the country. The election umpire gave the assurance a day after the state elections and regretted the violence and harassment of staffers of INEC and the general public. According to reports, the bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, and the INEC results in the viewing portal performed better than the February 25th federal elections, beside the vote trading and violence.
Today's program will take an introspective look at how violence, vote buying, and other issues undermine the credibility of the governorship and state assembly elections. Our guests monitored the March 18 governorship and state assembly elections. They will share their perspectives with us very soon. But for you out there, what is your assessment of the conduct of the March 18 governorship and state assembly elections? How would you rate the overall credibility of the elections? What do you think gave rise to more violence and vote buying during the polls? What must we do to ensure, as a nation, to reduce drastically violence and vote buying in future elections? And what lessons must INEC learn from the 2023 elections?
Be ready to join us through phone and text messages during this conversation. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message to is 0902 265 6167. That is 0902 265 6167. Please indicate your name and your location when sending your message. The number is for messages only.
Please begin to send your messages as soon as possible to 09022656167. That is 09022656167. We will give out the numbers to call shortly.
If you just joined us, we are taking an introspective look at how violence, vote buying, and other issues undermined the credibility of the governorship and state assembly elections. According to reports published by the International Center for Investigative Reporting, ICIR, pockets of violence, vote buying and selling, and intimidation took center stage in several states of the Federation where elections were held. Over 20 persons died as a result of the violence across Nigeria during March 18 polls. There were reports of attacks on journalists. Also, operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, who were deployed to curb vote buying, were reportedly attacked by some electorates who wanted to sell their votes.
Sad. Also, the European Union Election Observer Mission to Nigeria faulted INEC and politicians for all that went wrong in the electoral process. The mission said Nigerians hungered for democracy and we are ready to be involved in the country's democracy. Still, their appetite was lost due to failures by political elites and INEC. Joining us to assess the impact of violence and vote buying and other issues that threaten the credibility of the just concluded governorship and state assembly elections is a senior program officer at Kimpact Development Initiative, Oluwafemi Adebayo. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We also joined by a public affairs analyst, Sonny Ako. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's get it started with you, Oluwafemi. From an election observer viewpoint, how would you rate the credibility of the governorship and state assembly polls?
Well, I think this is a question I've been answering for quite a number of times for the past few days, and I think basically this is the way I will put it. When we look at the credibility of the elections, there are so many factors involved. And of course, we cannot but talk about the aspect of electoral security. We cannot but talk about in terms of when we talk about logistics, we cannot talk about administration. We cannot but talk about the administration of the elections. But overall, to answer the question, I think what Nigerians look out for, the elections Nigeria wanted in a time like this, I can say that majority of the population didn't get the type of elections they wanted, right? Because I can tell you, we monitored even during and post-election for the past few days as regards electoral violence, which has to do with electoral security. And I can tell you that there are violence in some of the state, and to be precise, I will go into some of the data so that we'll get it. For the February 25th, on the election day, there are 89 violence that we recorded, we verified, because we don't document unverified incidents, that we verified, and we documented that. On that March 18th elections, there are 121 cases of violence that have been recorded from what we were able to verify to date. And on the election day alone, we got over 97 of those incidents, right? And with close to 121 victims. You mentioned the fact that there are about few deaths that happened, and I know we have it. We recorded 4 in Benue. We recorded almost about 2 in Lagos. We recorded 1 in Cross River. We recorded 1 in Ogun. I'm just disaggregating all of this figure. So what I'm trying to say, but there's something that is very instructive that we've been talking about even pre-election, is the state of, number one, the state of the security state of the nation, even before elections. I won't go deep into that, but on the election day, we noticed that the spikes of violence happening around the country, most of them, I think from data, 87% of those violence that I mentioned happened in the southwestern part of the country, predominantly Lagos, Rivers. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say.
Getting.
So these are some of the things, and practically this was the nature of electoral related violence pre-elections. And from our pre-election analysis, we've been talking about this, that most of the stakeholders that are doing mitigation, electoral violence mitigation and prevention, intervention, should know the mode and the means at which, because what is happening in the southern part is a bit different from what is happening in the northern part. The northern part of the country is faced with insecurity. But in the southern part, of course, I'm not excusing any region. Every region has its own peculiarity in terms of insecurity. But when it comes to reporting violence, we're seeing banditry, farmer elders clashes, kidnapping in the northern part, right? We have seen that in the southern part, but we have more electoral related violence in the southern part. So let me join it. On the February 25th elections, we have more of the 89 violence also happen in the southern part of the country. We have even in the March 18 in the southern part of the country. So what this is saying, and even going back to history, we've been seeing more of electoral related violence in the southern part of the country more. But this is where the balance is. If you now look at most of the post-election violence that we recorded, it was more in the northern part of the country. So, and that is why all of these data are important for stakeholders, right? To be able to mitigate properly.
So you're saying that history kind of repeated itself with what you have before the elections. We also find out that the violence we are talking about played out more in the south during elections.
Yeah.
Yes, which means history almost or repeated itself?
Yeah, because I have that document here, right? And if you look at even from 2014, 2015, 2018, 2019, most of the elections, right, that have been conducted, general elections to be precise, data has shown that violence, electoral related violence, I need to be specific, domicile more. And let's go back, let's cast our mind back to even the days, I'm a student of history, right, 1979, if we go back to even 1993, right, 1983. These are days where electoral violence were renowned, like the Operation Wet in the southern part of the country. The 1993 annulment, or 1993-1994 annulment, it is also in the southern part. Basically, what I'm trying to say is not trying to draw a divide, right? That's not what I'm trying to do. But what I'm trying to do, or to say, is that for as much as stakeholders that are actually actively interested in peace building, for stakeholders that are actively interested in ensuring that they mitigate and prevent electoral violence in subsequent elections, there are need for all of this information so that they have targeted and specific intervention, so that it won't be one size fits all, because issues happening in different regions are different.
Okay, quickly before I come to Ms. Sonny Ako, because you mentioned that there was an upgrade of violence after 25th February polls. What really counted? Why the intensity rose from what we saw during the presidential election, and we had a high number of incidences of violent attacks across the country?
Well, I think it's not far-fetched. A lot of dynamics, a lot of dynamics in the presidential elections, right? You look at some political, when you say the political elite, a political shifting in a particular state that had to, maybe because of the new wave of political ideology coming in town, you discover that they are even losing their base, right? So so all of these things are not far-fetched. You discover that even in terms of the dynamism, when you talk about the zest and the enthusiasm of Nigerians that want to vote, you can talk about the socio-economic state of the country. However, one key thing that underlines this is that we need to actually talk to our political elite. We need to talk to our politicians, because election is a civil affair. It's not a war, right? So why do we need to make it do or that? Because citizens are aiming to go out and cast their vote for individuals or political party or candidate that they believed in, right? So why do we need to suppress vote? Why do we need violence?
Valid question there, Femi. Why do we need to suppress votes and all of that? But let's quickly get the perspective of Sonny Ako. How would you assess the governorship and state houses of assembly election that just held on Saturday?
Oh, well, thank you very much. For me, as much as I don't want to play a card that would seem like I'm playing down on incidents that happened during this election, I'll rank myself among those who scored it fairly. I'll say that with a bold face, because I've been in this country before now. We've had elections where not just ordinary Nigerians were killed in large numbers, but there were cases where in places like Rivers, a commissioned Nigerian army officer, the rank of a major, was beheaded in an election in this country, right? We've seen elections where we see masked security men storming states, and we see elections where people are locked down in their homes, people can't move. We see armored tanks rolling into states. So let's not get carried away with this particular election and single it out and make it seem like I've seen people say this is the worst we've seen in the history of Nigeria, and I'd be like, where have you been? Have you been in Nigeria at all? So for me, as much as incidents, there were a lot of incidents in this election, it is most painful and regrettable for most Nigerians, because a lot of people expected to see some level of difference as of 2023. And with a government that has promised to ensure a very free and fair election in office, right? That's probably why there's the situation is the way it is on the media, right? Especially on social media and all of that. So as much as I'm not playing down the very ugly and nasty incidents that happened in some places, especially in Lagos, where it is leaving a horrible aftertaste in our mouths now. We're seeing issues of tribal bigotry that is going to linger on. You know, the dangers in Lagos. I mean, I was reading the news, some marriages are already getting cracks in the walls, you know, intertribal marriages because of this whole highlighting of tribal issues. This is not your state, this state doesn't belong to anybody, and sort of very painful comments that people are making just because they want to support their candidate. So for me, as much as it is regrettable that we're living in the modern era, this is 2023 for goodness sake, and we still have people going to polling units with canes and flogging people. You know, we have people going around with gongs. I saw one video from somewhere in Rivers State, somebody hitting a gong and announcing, if you are not going to vote for a certain party, stay at home. You know, we see warnings from thugs directly warning people, right? As much as they are very painful, I still remember that I've been in this country when we even saw worse situations. In the case of gongs this time around, there were times when people were going around with guns, you know. So for me, as much as I know that the social media hype and reportage, the ability for Nigerians to become more proactive in participation and reporting incidents is heightened now. That's why we hear all we get to see, which is also linked to what Femi was saying about the South having more incidents. If you ask me, I would say that it's not as if there are no incidents in the North, you know, but the know-how for citizen reportage is higher in the South. So people are more equipped to, you know, make announcements of incidents going on around them, more in the southern part of the country than in the northern part. And there are parts of the North also that are not accessible to the media and to other citizen reporters also who would want to, you know, volunteer and cover the elections. Unlike in the southern parts where, you know, people are bold to, you know, go to all polling units, bring out their phones and all of that. I mean, some of the horrible incidents we've had during this election, some of them also happen in the North. Nobody's looking at places like Bauchi States, for example, which was almost a battle zone before the elections and during the elections, and up till now there's still, you know, firecrackers, you know, going up and down.
Are there areas where both the commission and the citizens improved?
Both INEC
Yes.
and the citizens. Oh well, I think very clearly, for especially on the side of the citizens. I mean, the amount of people who register to vote this time around is a clear indicator. Even the citizen reportage we're talking about here is also a clear indicator. There are more people who are interested. When you hear complaints like this is the worst thing because somebody was flogged in your polling unit, when you hear someone say this is the worst, Nigeria is finished, sometimes I want to say maybe this person was born in 1995, 96, 97, and the person is probably 25 now, and maybe you were spared the things some of us saw previously, right? So it also shows you the age categorizations too, of more younger people are coming on board. So you see somebody who is young, for that person, this is the worst the person has seen. So it shows you that there are more younger people coming into the fray of things. And we've had cases where somebody who is, some people say 35, others say 25, you know, took out a speaker of the state legislature in his state. Yeah. So there are indications
different upheavals, different upsets.
But for INEC, I wouldn't say there was any improvement for me on the side of INEC. I mean, for INEC, we keep repeatedly making the same mistakes to the extent that it becomes as if they're deliberate about some of the things they do, like handling of logistics. For goodness sake, why is it that
they improved
in logistics handling? Okay, if you say they improve, I always see the worst buses, 14-seater buses in Nigeria, anytime it's election time and they want to take materials. For goodness sake, you see rickety, dead buses. And there are cases where people are gathered and waiting for hours. The materials have not arrived. For goodness sake, this is something you've had years and months to plan. And you got the biggest budget any sector has gotten to carry out their own activities so far. And then you cannot still deliver on that day, 1 day or 2 days. So for me, logistics handling is still very poor. And then when INEC comes with a press release that starts explaining why transmission of results could not be done because the server was jammed. You know, for me, it doesn't reflect any improvement, a remarkable improvement that should be praised.
I'm going to jump in here because and take you back a little bit. So let me get your take on this quickly, because initially we talked about ethnic law, then hate speeches, threats to lives. Yeah. Did you think the state handled it well? Because we saw the threat, it was not hidden, it came out, everybody is aware, it was in public glare. Do you think the state handled that very well? Your quick take on that.
Yeah, so when you say the states, you mean
the Nigerian state.
Okay, so because the state could, it sounds like all of us.
Yes, if there is
if it's the government,
yes, the government,
I would say they didn't do well at all, right? In all of this, we haven't seen any arrests made in Lagos, any substantial arrests made in places like Lagos where this was most pronounced. You know, we've seen cases where the commissioner of police came out to tell us that somebody who has made very strong statements, you know, that seems to be stampeding people's human rights. You come out and you tell Nigerians that the person is just joking. Okay. Just take it as a joke. The person is joking.
Okay.
Right? So I don't think, and then for agencies like the National Orientation Agency, who are supposed to take up the challenge at these kind of periods, to, you know, put out those kind of messages that will unite the country, have not been at their best.
Okay, so quickly, Femi, your take on this. Did the government, do you believe that the government did the much they should?
No, really. If I'm supposed to answer this question, really, I won't be missing words. The truth is, the state, the Nigerian state, or the government as a whole, or agencies that are supposed to be proactive in ensuring that these things are, you know, mitigated, or maybe they are being cautioned, didn't do well in this regard. This is a typical example. I was going to say this, you know, when he was talking about even when there are threats that are caught on tapes, visible ones circulating through the media, then the police, the agency that is meant to enforce, you know, some of these things to ensure that there is peace and order in the country, saying no, take it as a joke. How? So I think I'm following the.
Okay. You are lining up with him.
Yeah.
All right. The Primorg also, our Vox Pop team also hit the street to find out, to feel the pulse of Nigerians out there on what they think about vote buying and violence and how they affected the conduct of the 2023 general elections. Take a listen.
Voices against corruption. Let the people speak.
Hello and welcome to Primorg's public feedback series on corruption called Voices Against Corruption. And we ask, how much do you think violence and vote trading affected the conduct of the 2023 general elections?
Vote buying have affected our election to a level that youth now will not be able to stand up tomorrow confidently and say they want to go and cast their vote, believing that it will go well.
For the violence part, it affected the election, especially that of Lagos, where you see a lot of persons were scared of, and they were even scared of coming out to actually exercise their civil responsibility. Then for the vote buying, with this current policy actually affected the vote buying because there was no cash anywhere.
We try our best. So many persons turn up to vote, and after everything, the result was something else. So the buying really affected the election.
To a great extent, there were incidents of violence where there were intimidation of supporters of the oppositions by political thugs, cases of people not being allowed to access polling stations, or incidences of where they said if you're not willing to vote certain parties that you shouldn't bother coming to express your vote. So that's to a great deal deterred people from voting.
Money and vote buying has destroyed so many things this election of 2023. During the time of voting, campaigning, they only say that youth, they are only on social media. It was this year election that I discovered that youth, even old men and women, they came out to vote. So nobody wants to die because of election. If after 4 years or 8 years again, anybody they like, let them pick the person and put for there. That is my opinion. I can now come outside and vote again.
My area, which is Niger State, the election was free and fair. There's not any violence in my area.
Violence, to me, to my own point of view, violence was never the issue of 2023 election. The issue of 2023 election was the government not fulfilling their own part of the bargain. The promise they made was that the result will be transmitted via the beavers, which it was never so. The masses, the youth came out to vote as their right, and from what I've seen, they were deprived of their rights.
Look at what happened in Lagos. It's an eyesore. You employ thugs to go after people, the voters, ask them to do what is against their will. It's wrong. It's wrong. I think we have to change this narrative. All this rascality must stop.
Primark's public feedback on corruption in Nigeria is produced with support from MacArthur Foundation.
You are still onto Public Conscience, a production of the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, and we've been talking about the governorship and state assembly elections. Back in the studio, we are still with Olufemi Adebayo and Sonny Ako. Thank you for staying with us. And before we get your reaction to the Vox Pop, we'll quickly announce the phone line so that our listener will get ready to join us.
Please follow us on our social media platforms at Official Primorg. The spelling of Primorg is Primorg.
And you can watch our videos on Primorg TV, our YouTube channel. And Adobe, let's go on. Please begin to send your messages now to 09022656167. And that is 09022656167. This number is for messages only. And we are asking, what is your contribution to the conversation? What is your own assessment to the conduct of the March 18 governorship and state assembly elections? How would you rate the overall credibility of the polls? What do you think gave rise to more violence and vote buying? What must we do as a nation to reduce drastically violence and vote buying in future elections? And also the lessons INEC must learn going forward. We have a call. Let's take this call. Hello? Hello? Your name and where you're calling from?
My name is Chidi Amwepipe.
Oh, Chidi Amwepipe. Let's hear you in 1 minute, sir. Fine, thank you, sir.
So the real problem we have is the effect of office in Nigeria. Political office is very attractive. That's why they kill to get there. We need policy reforms so that go there to work, not eat. Mentality is I must get there so that I can better my life and better life of my relations and friends. So that's the main problem we have. And again, concerning the election conduct, I think INEC should review their system and let everybody vote on the same day. All they need to do is give us 5 ballot papers. We will complete on each of them. And then we will save money, save time, save life, and all of that. We must look into all everything we are doing to see that things are done right the way they are done in other lives. We are still human beings the way they are. They don't have 2 heads and we have 1. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that contribution. Let's move on.
Okay, we have a message on Facebook from Gabriel Monday, and it says, "Good morning, Gabriel from Papi. Majority of our youth will no longer believe in INEC, federal government, because of the way this 2023 election was conducted. Rigging, humiliations in some notable parts of the country, inflation is seriously pressing us down in purchasing some basic things we need for our immediate satisfaction. Buying of cash because of its scarcity."
So sad, but thank you for that message. Back, we'll still be here to take your call, but let me get your reactions to the Vox Pop and
the suggestions from
Mr. Chidi Onwekwibe.
I think for me, really, I support the fact that there should be an independent inquiry into these elections as regards what INEC, the conduct of the elections. INEC as an institution, there should be an independent inquiry into their processes. And I've been holding this back really, but I think in a time like this, I support the aspect of holistic reforms, not just towards INEC. I think holistically, we need to look at the system, electoral system as a whole, because let me just take it bit by bit. I personally believe that there is need to unbundle INEC, right? There is need to unbundle INEC. Now, this is it. INEC, I can count about 7 to 9 things mandate that INEC has. Though constitutionally INEC have about 8, but I can count some of their functions. For instance, INEC will be the one to conduct the election administration. They'll be the one to handle logistics. They'll be the one to monitor party primaries. They'll be the one to monitor campaign finance. INEC will be the one to do voter education. INEC will be the one to do in terms of accreditation of the observers. INEC, I've counted about 6 now. So now, what am I trying to say? I am not making excuses for INEC. But I think the commission that we have in a time like this is not matured or have the strength to undo all of these things all together.
You think the weight is too much?
Yeah, I think, and it has to do with willingness. It has to do with capacity. Really, INEC will also do litigation. Before the elections, there are over 1,800 pre-election litigation, and INEC was joining close to 1,000 of this.
Your organization, you have special interest in violence across the nation during the elections.
Yes.
What is the likelihood that electoral offenders, election criminals, will be brought to book?
Okay, so this is another dimension, right? We've been monitoring this process. Personally, I've been involved in monitoring this process. KDI as an organization has been monitoring the electoral process for years, but I've been involved in this since 2011 as observing elections, analyzing issues and the likes. And one key thing that I know, even after 2015, 2019, for 2019, let me say specifically, for 2015, 2019, there are over 1,000 electoral offenders that were arrested. Just the 25th of February, there are certain number that the IGP released officially that were arrested, right? Now, all of these processes, we've not really seen any other report that talks about these individuals have been prosecuted and have been tried. But let me say this. We've asked INEC series of questions. We've asked the Nigerian police series of questions. And the basic thing is this. Police will say, ours is just to make arrest. The case file has been transferred to INEC. Right? INEC will also come to tell you, well, we have a lot of things to do. If you want us to be pursuing electoral offenders, what about election administration? What about all of those things? INEC has more openly come to talk about we are supporting having electoral offense commission that will take this off, right? INEC has openly talked about this. So what that means is that aside from the Akwa Ibom INEC officials, that was in 2019, they were tried by even the commission itself. And I know that I think about 5 of them are also serving their J terms. Aside from this, we've not seen any visible report that talks about those that have been tried for electoral offenses. And you know what this means is that it reinforces the culture of impunity.
It's culture of impunity. When there is no consequence for actions. Sonny Ako, what is your take on the fact that we need to stop violence going forward? How can we end violence or reduce it drastically in our electoral system?
Well, I'll tell you, in all of the societies in the world where there's peace, there's absence of violence, and things are done properly, you find a justice system that works. It is because people know that they will not be held accountable for their actions. That is what emboldens people to commit crimes. You understand? If you know that you commit a crime, you go in for it, you do the time, you pay for it, people will reduce involvement in all of these kind of actions. Like I said earlier, we see cases where people do things, and in Nigeria, when Femi walked in, you asked him jokingly, the election has ended, what's next, what's going on? He said, we're going into the next stage, which is tribunals and court cases. The judges and lawyers in Nigeria normally go and iron their gowns and wash their wig to be shiny white because it is time to start chopping whenever there's election. So in essence, they are also, nurturing, preparing the grounds. Everybody knows that there will be cheating, there will be violence, there will be all of that. That's why everybody keeps money aside for the lawyers and the judges.
You may not be entirely right there, because seeking redress in court is constitutionally there, that after elections, some people will have reservations about the elections. So is their right?
Is their right?
It's
their right. But in a case where people tend to see that every election should go, they going to seek redress in court is supposed to be the last resort.
Okay, let's take this call.
Yeah.
Hello.
My name is Yaya. I'm calling from UTC.
Okay, Yaya, how can we end violence and vote buying in our elections? If you can give me that in 45 seconds.
The vote buying and violence especially, is limited to what our politicians have in mind, because from our own end, from the voters generally, this last election that just took place happens to be my first time I ever voted. And we saw how determined the politicians were to committing this crime of violence against the voters all over the country. If they don't change their mind from this thing, the way this country is going, if it keep on going this way, it will go sour. That is just the point.
Okay.
It will go sour. And then when it comes to what government has done concerning vote buying, you can see that the whole story about taking cash out of system because of vote buying, who did the thing affect? Is it not all the poor masses? This government, they know what they are doing. It's obvious that they know what they are doing. And the money that they took out of the economy, and this stopped the vote buying.
Okay.
And this stopped them from rigging the election.
Okay.
They ended up doing what was in their mind.
Okay, we have to leave it there because of time. But thank you so much for your contribution.
Femi, I'll direct this question at you. Yahaya talked about political actors being one of the major issue here, and the caller before him, that's Chidi, also talked about making the offices now, talking about the president, the governors and National Assembly members, making that office unattractive. In your own way, how do you think we can achieve that? Do we need more engagement with the political actors?
Okay, you
Before
give me
you
that,
answer that, let's take this
immediately after this call. Hello? Okay, I think the call dropped off. Please, go ahead.
Okay, so let me pick it from Chidi that
Yes.
talks about we need to make it less attractive. Yes, that is right. But how do we do it? That's the difficult thing, right? Because we can't just throw everything away. We need the same political class, most especially the lawmakers, to amend the laws. So, but have you ever seen anybody legislating themselves out of benefit? These are conversations. So if you want to reduce the benefit, the remuneration, some of the things attributed to these particular offices, so we need the lawmakers who eventually they are political party chieftains to be able to do this. So that is where it seems we're going back and forth.
And do you see our lawmakers making such laws?
Well, I have not seen anybody, nowhere in the globe where you see people legislate themselves out of power or possibly legislate themselves out of benefit.
So it's not going to be easy. Let's get this caller. Hello? Hello? Yeah, yes. Good morning. Your name and where are you calling from?
Okay, this is Shiwu calling from Governorship.
Okay. Okay, let's hear you in 40 seconds.
Okay, thank you so much. I think the last outing, the governorship election, and indeed the presidential election that happened before this, the planning was good, the layout was fantastic, but the outcome was not it. And I think there is a very big problem that we need to focus on, whether people are going to tribunal or not. The challenge is that there is something in there that politicians are willing to kill and maim and destroy the process in order to get in there. And that which is in there, I think, is the monetary gains that these people have access to. I think it's high time Nigerians rise up to check why would politicians be aiming so much such that they are willing to disrupt the whole process and kill and even men and do a lot of destruction in order to have access to power? I think this is a key issue that we should focus on. Otherwise, we keep turning out good policies, good laws, good electoral laws, but the final analysis, we may end up having nothing to show for it. At most, it will leave Nigerians more dejected and more destroyed.
All right, let's leave it there with you. Thank you. Well, let me bring this question to both of you. Do you think that Electoral Offences Commission is our silver bullet to curbing violence and addressing issues of violence in our elections? Let me go with you first, Sonny.
I was going to ask you, what do you call that commission again?
Electoral Offences Commission,
I was asking you deliberately, because how many Nigerians are aware of that commission? And what has that commission done?
It's yet to come on board.
Yeah, so it's yet to come on board.
But there is push for it.
There's push for it. But while we are pushing, like we are doing, pushing everything in Nigeria, what we need to do now is to ensure that our judiciary, I'm going back to it, is not just there to make money, but they are also part of this country we are talking about. And it's high time the judiciary moves from being just an arm of government that gets allocation and does what it's supposed to do, to becoming an activist judiciary. An activist judiciary, just like we have activist journalists and all of that, should put the country first. In a case where you see people in the judiciary, judges, when you come with a case that then they want to frustrate, they know what to do. They look for the holiday dates and give you a date for your case, and your case remains there forever. They give you dates where they know that they will not be available. They know. We have cases where people have bribed judges and done all of this. So if the judiciary is not, because that's the last resort of the common man.
The judiciary, they've also come out tops in different occasions. So let us not throw away everything we have with the judiciary.
If we get the electoral process right,
yes,
would there be a need for us to get to the judiciary?
Okay, because getting the electoral processes right is almost an impossible task for us now if we want to face the reality. Between now and the next 4 years, do you think Nigeria is going to become El Dorado? All the issues we were talking about, the issues of politicians being so die-hardish about getting into office is there. The issue of our political offices being too attractive for these people is there. It's even going to become more as we move forward. So for me, I'm dealing with what is the reality and how to curb it in the interim.
So you are putting much of the task and work at the feet of the judiciary,
because that's where everything is going to end up.
Okay.
We're going to see a long barrage of cases now that is going to be milking state treasuries dry. Okay. A lot of governors will be going to court. People will be going to court up and down. It's going to be a heyday for the judges and the lawyers all over the country, and that's because they know. Somebody asked, how many other countries in the supposedly saner climes are always referred to, how many times do you hear the case has gone to electoral tribunal? When somebody wins an election, for goodness sake, it is clear for everybody to see and you move on. Okay. But here in Nigeria, some collation centers have been shut down by INEC because of Wahala. I hope you know that some states, we've not heard what the results are. There's still about 2 states that they are fighting and protesting.
Okay, we must get Femi to come in here, because we are also running out of time.
Yes, so for us at KDI,
do you think that we can really sort out election violence with Electoral Offences Commission?
Okay, I was going to talk about the judiciary.
You can put all together.
In 1 minute.
Yes, it is possible, but it's not going to just reduce it drastically, or we are going back to zero from the top of, I'm talking about the climax of electoral violence issues down like that. But as much as I support the commission coming on board, another conversation we need to have, and every of the stakeholders need to be involved, because our activeness and participation can avert that problem, is, will the commission not also be food for the boys? How effective will be the commission? So let me quickly leave that. But let me go back to the judiciary. Really, I think the judiciary, I don't know how much we want the judiciary to replace INEC. I don't know. But the moment elections are done in the country, like you said, people should seek legal redress. But the conversation about the judiciary is something that is very dicey, because most times they tell us that it is the law, sorry, it is justice according to the law, not law according to justice. I've been holding back on this, but let me see this. Do we all even are aware that violence is not one of the grounds to approach the petition or to EPT? And that is why we need to come back to do holistic reforms.
We have to do holistic reform. We have to leave it there because of our time. We appreciate our guest, Senior Program Officer at Kimpact Development Initiative, Olufemi Adebayo, and Public Affairs Analyst, Sonny Ako. Thank you all for joining us today. Public Conscience has the support of the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, committed to building a more just, verdant, and peaceful world. Get more information about the foundation on its website, macfound.org.
Join us again here next week for another episode of Public Conscience, and remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Official Primorg. I am Adaobi Biabubo.
Remember that birth registration and birth certificate are both free if your child is under 18. Help stop the corruption in birth registration and do not pay for birth certificates. Also, remember that you can give us information or hints about Corrupt Act through our phone at 09022656167 or info@primorg.org. I am Chidozie Obonaya. Stay safe.